Good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here. We surely appreciate your engagement and getting some understanding on kind of how all this works with our property taxes. So welcome to Property Tax 101, hosted by the fantastic city of Stonecrest. Before I start, I'm going to give some acknowledgements. We have some elected officials in the room. So first I'll start with my fantastic city council. Mayor Pro Tem George Turner is here with us, and also Councilwoman Tammy Grimes has joined us for the evening. District 4, District 5. Also have Representative Doreen Carter in the room. And we have a visitor from our neighboring county. Our commissioner from Rockdale, Commissioner Washington, is here with us. And then, of course, our tax commissioner. I'll give him a separate shout out, although he'll have the stage to give you much more than I will, but our wonderful tax commissioner is here with us as well. Did I miss any other elected officials in the room? All right, good. So we're going to start with a couple of presentations. So you should have, if you don't, the little agenda sheet for this evening, and it has some areas for you to take notes. So I'm going to ask that you write your questions down on that sheet of paper. You got the front and all the back, and if you need more, we've got more. So that we can get through the presentations. Once we get through the presentations, then we'll do the Q&A, okay? So as you hear the presentation, you hear questions, go on and jot them down. Does anybody need a pen? Yes, be prepared. We got one for you, don't worry. And if you need another sheet of paper, feel free to ask for another one as well. So we'll take all our notes and then we'll ask Q&A at the end, okay? So we're gonna start with our fantastic partners at the county. If you are not familiar, our county provides many services to the city of Stonecrest residents as well as, the county-wide. So we're gonna start with Mr. Calvin Hicks, who is the Director of Property Appraisal. I get that right? Okay. I was going to add more to it, but I think that's the official title, right? Just Property Appraisal. So we'll go through their presentation first. Then we'll let the tax commissioner's office come up, go through their presentation, and then we'll do our Q&A. Sound good? All right. Come on up, Director Hicks. Welcome, Mr. Hicks, to the Stonecrest stage.
Thank you. Good evening. Property appraisal. The property appraisal department is a department that supports the Board of Assessors. So I want to start first by explaining the Board of Assessors. Every county in the state is mandated to have a Board of Assessors, and this is a hierarchy that's established by state statute. That Board of Assessors function primarily is to determine the assessments. The assessments will be used along with the millage rates that are established by the various taxing authorities. And that will at some point determine what your ultimate tax liability will be. The Board of Assessors consists of lay people. They are appointed in DeKalb by, well, I should say they are put forth by the CEO in DeKalb, and they are approved by the governing authority. It's a 5-member board. Lay people. That Board of Assessors has various mandates that are determined by state statute. And one of those is that there will be a department, an appraisal department, to assist them in determining values, because these assessments really are mathematical adjustment to market values of properties. And in Georgia, the assessed value is 40%. So unless you're on some type of specialized assessment, your assessments will be 40%. Now, there's nothing magical about why 40 instead of 100. There are some states that actually use 100% assessment, like Florida, for instance. The only difference that you would see in that is that the mill rates would actually be less in Florida than they are in Georgia. That doesn't mean that your tax liability, however, is going to be more in Georgia, because in Florida, they're applying it against a larger value, 2.5 times the value of what we use in Georgia, but the tax liability may be the same. So what does this Board of Assessors in terms of determining fair market value? How do they do that? Well, state statute pretty well controls that as well as a definition of market value. That's recorded in OCGA 4852. And it tells the Board of Assessors exactly what it is they're supposed to do. In essence, it's trying to mimic the actions of you. What do you do when you're participating in the market as a seller, as a purchaser? What are you interested in? How do you determine what something is worth to you? Because it's your actions that the Board of Assessors are going to review and then determine what the assessments should be. That's why values can change virtually every year. They do in many instances. But the Board of Assessors has a considerable responsibility to determine the value one day of the year, not 365. If you look at a chart from Zillow, any other of the reporting services, you'll see values go up and down. The market changes almost daily in some instances. But we are charged with what is the value of that property on January 1? What is it worth at that point in time? How do we determine that? By looking at the market activities. It should come as no surprise to anyone in the Atlanta area that values have increased dramatically over the last year. AJC wrote constant articles about it. Hey, the Atlanta area has some of the highest appreciations in value throughout the country. And when they're talking about the Atlanta area, I know that can sometimes be a little confusing because they talk about the Atlanta area and the MSA, the statistical area that actually is comprised of 29 different counties. I assure you that values in DeKalb are different than they are in Hall County, in Forsyth County, in Gwinnett County, in Cobb County. There are differences in DeKalb County. We have over 1,000 different neighborhoods that we're tracking to determine what values are. But again, those values come from you, because you are the parties that are determining what properties you're willing to pay for and what properties you're willing to sell them for. And the only thing that the statute tells the Board of Assessors is when the market speaks, you have the responsibility to make sure your assessments are put in line with that. And quite frankly, the Board of Assessors doesn't have a whole lot of latitude. Our margin for error is 10%. So if our values are less than 10% than what the market activity says, the digest probably will not be approved. If the values are greater than 10%, the digest will not be approved. So there is no reason why the Board of Assessors has to artificially inflate values. They have a job to do. And I believe the mayor indicated that she worked for the Department of Audits at one point in time. The Department of Audits has a department whose function is to basically check all 159 counties. They don't come to DeKalb County and say, well, why did you place the values on the properties that you did, and why are the assessments at that level? Because every transaction that involves a sale, typically before that deed can be recorded, there's a form called a PT 61, in which the parties are listed, the sale price is listed, the identification of the property is listed. A copy of that goes to the Department of Audits. And the Department of Audits gets that. They also get a copy of each county's digest, and they simply do what we refer to as a sales assessment ratio analysis and say, okay, as long as your assessments compared to these sales is relatively between 36 and 44%, your target's 40%, you're good. We'll continue to approve your digest, and you can continue to submit it for the tax bills. But if it's outside of that, the county is going to get cited, And it could lead to the digest actually not being accepted for collection. So we don't want that. So the Board of Assessors function primarily is to determine values from which there's a mathematical multiplication of 40% to come up with the assessed value. Now, there are an awful lot of adjustments that are going to occur. Exemptions that, like the tax commissioners will be speaking to, and will have an influence on what are the net taxes that an individual pays. And of course, the exemptions for each one of the entities that charges mill rates. Because I know we're here in Stonecrest, and I don't think Stonecrest has one mill somewhere in the neighborhood. Your municipal millage is relatively low compared to an awful lot of jurisdictions in the county. But in looking at your tax liability, probably the schools is going to be the greatest contributor of that tax liability. I'll tell you something else. In many instances, if you fit into a special category, it's great. If you're a senior individual and you qualify for a 4 exemption, great, you pay no school tax. But there are others in which the basic homestead exemption, you're gonna pay school tax. And it's going to probably be the greatest contributor of that total tax liability that you will have. The county, not so much. And one of the things that you will look at in that tax bill when you're looking at the mill rates that the county sets is that in 2006, legislation was passed to actually give some relief to the homesteaded properties. Once you're a floating homestead exemption, if you know what that is, above your basic homestead exemption, it in essence says, okay, appreciation is going to happen. We want it to happen. Everyone wants their property to be more than what it was when they acquired it. And if you don't believe that, go back to 2008 and 9 and 10 when values are headed in the opposite direction. But what the county does is that floating homestead exemption has a base. And whatever that base is, values may go up higher. And on your tax bills, as well as on the estimate, on the assessment notes that you receive, you see an estimate of how much credit you're receiving as a result of the floating homestead exemption. But basically what it does is this: any value that has been added for inflationary purposes, market changes, you didn't make a capital improvement, any value that's added over your base is exempted. You pay no tax on that for your county portion of the tax bill. Now, it would be great if that was extended to the school tax, but thus far that hadn't happened. It still maintains that the taxes, the greatest tax liability we have is to the schools. But in looking at the information that we send, the annual assessment notice, it does indicate what the values are. It also indicates what an estimate of your tax liability is going to be, an estimate. Now, let me say something about that estimate. The mill rates that they quote are not the current mill rates for the current year. Typically, they are the mill rates from the prior year. It doesn't have to have all of the exemptions on there, because in many instances, exemptions can change, just like this year. Again, I know Stoncrest doesn't have a millage rate, a rather large one. But this year, those of you who have homesteaded properties are going to notice that in addition to the exemptions that are shown on your assessment notice, when you go to pay your tax bill, you will get an additional credit of $18,000 in assessed value off of that tax liability. Then that's going to come to you as a benefit from the state of Georgia. The governor and the legislature passed that. That's not on the assessment notice, but it will be on your tax bill, and you will receive that benefit from that. But the annual assessment notice gives you all the information that you need to make a determination as to whether or not you think that value is reasonable. Again, very first test, is this something I can sell the property for? Is this something I would sell the property for? Now, if you can't honestly answer that and say, no, I don't think I would want to sell my property for this price. I would want more for it. Chances are, if you file an appeal, you may not be successful. Because when we're looking at it from the perspective of, okay, let's identify what properties are comparable to that. What are they sold for? And that's what we're going to look at in terms of developing the value. One of the things that anyone who requests it can get what we call is a comparable sheet. It will list your property and 5 of the closest comparables to it, and it'll show you what's happening in the market and what those values are and how we determine the value of your property. On the assessment notice that you receive the name and phone number of the staff appraiser, as well as my name is on there. If you have a question about that, if you want to receive that comparable sheet, call us and we will send it to you. If you disagree with us, it's not difficult to file an appeal. You can file online. You can print out a form and send it to us in mail, or you can deliver it to our office in person. So that's not difficult. The difficult part may be ensuring that when you say the value is wrong, that there's some credible evidence that you have that supports that. If there's an error in our characteristics, we're more than willing to correct it. So all of that and information for that is on the annual assessment notice itself. And if you don't find everything you need there, visit our website. We have an awful lot of information there as well. We don't view ourselves as being anti-citizens or property owners. We work for you. But I want you to understand that the functions of the Board of Assessors, as I've indicated, they don't have a whole lot to gain by jacking up values. If the value is too high or too low by 10%, the Department of Audits is going to cite the county. So what we do, and staff is trained to do it, we use a certified appraisal staff. Mass appraisals were required to be certified by the state of Georgia long before, by 25 years, before fee appraisers were required to have licenses. I'm a certified general appraiser. The first year I had to get a license for my fee work was in 1991. Mass appraisers had to be certified going back to the mid-70s. So the training's there, the experience is there, and we're willing to listen to you if there's an issue. So if you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to call us, and we will respond to you. Now, when I say that, if the owners of 243,000 parcels call me at one time, I may not be able to reach all of you, but leave your message and your phone numbers, and we will get back to you. And again, if it's an issue of appeal, make sure that the appeal is timely filed. This year, the appeal period closes when? The 10th, July 10th. That appeal has to be at least in the mail by that period of time. I recommend going online. You can go online and you can get an immediate confirmation that says, yes, my appeal has been accepted. And once you get that, you need to print it out and retain that. Because in tracking the paperwork that we do, sometimes paperwork gets lost. So you need to retain that confirmation sheet to make sure that it stays. And if there is an issue, you can support your contention that it was timely filed. With that, I will close. Thank you very much.
Our next presenter, so I hope you got your notes ready. One of our other council members walked in. Someone acknowledged Councilwoman District 3, that's where I live. Alicia Washington has just walked in and joined us. And also, if I'm not mistaken, I apologize, Representative Carter, I think that you wanted to make some remarks. Okay, all right. Okay. And it slipped my mind earlier and I saw my notes and I said, oh, shoot. Okay. So we'll bring you up when you're ready. Just let me know. So our next presenter, everybody okay so far? So far, so good? We're all right? Good. Our next presenter, we're going to start with the staff from our tax commissioner's office. Gonna come up and do a presentation. So get ready, flip your sheet over, get ready to take a second set of notes. And then after that, we'll have some Q&A. Tax Commissioner, welcome to the Stonecrest stage.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. Hello, everybody. How y'all doing? All right, I got an interesting question. When we send you mail to your home address, by show of hands, who reads it? Okay, that's interesting. I'm impressed. I'm impressed. The reason why I asked that question is because often as I do these presentations, I hear individuals saying that I didn't know something was going on in the tax office. And on a regular and routine basis, we generally, myself and the assessor's office, send out notices. Most of you have gotten this year your notice of tax assessment. And invariably, we get calls saying, I just got my tax bill. How many of you think that you just got your tax bill? Right? Well, most people think they got their tax bill because when they're looking at the notice of assessment, it says at the top, this is not a tax bill, but they go straight to the bottom and say, and to see what the tax amount is. And they assume that that's going to be their taxes for the year. So that is oftentimes the first misleading piece of information or understanding that we have about the tax process. The second thing that I find it interesting over my 7 years as tax commissioner, that everybody thinks the tax commissioner is setting your tax rates because you get a bill with whose name on it. So you say, well, let me call that guy because he must be the guy that's raising my taxes, right? Because his name is the tax commissioner, okay? So what Director Hicks and I are trying to do tonight is to give you a broader understanding of how your tax bill comes into existence and what our role is in creating that particular tax bill. As he has already explained to you that he's on the appraisal side. Well, I'm on the bill preparation side. I take the information that he has generated along with the tax digest, along with the mill rates that come from the city, from the county, from the school system, and it used to be from the state, but the state no longer collects any taxes, basically. So I'm the guy that's putting together all the elements of your tax bill, and you get that sheet of paper with the little small print on it that you can barely read. And you go to the bottom of it and you look for the final number. But on that sheet, it gives you a layout of how your taxes are created. It shows you the categories that are added together to create the total tax bill. And on the right-hand side of your tax bill, it starts to show you where your deductions, if you're entitled to any, would be. And some of your deductions will come from any exemptions that you're entitled to, e-host exemptions, and any freeze amounts that you may have. So the tax bill explains to you exactly where your taxes are coming from, what items are being taxed, and what those numbers are as they apply to your bill. And I'm not going to go into a detail of that. We offer the ability to show you that on a one-on-one basis, all right, either by phone call or come into our office, or we come out to local meetings and we actually bring our laptop and we'll bring up your property tax and show you your bill and how the bill is generated. Now, you can imagine me trying to do that for 100 people in the room tonight. We would be here till 12 o'clock tonight. But that opportunity is available to you throughout the year. So we're available 5 days a week, all right, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 in the property tax group. A lot of the information that we have, we send to you Even tonight, we handed out some brochures that talk about the exemptions, what they are, and what the basic qualifications are for them. All of the exemptions which you may be entitled to require having age and income components. Those are state regulated or local laws that create the exemption. Tax commissioner is not deciding which one of you are going to get some kind of tax exemption. But to the extent that you apply for tax exemptions, all right, once you get one, you always have it unless age or income changes. So you don't have to reapply once you're granted an exemption, all right? There was some controversy earlier in the year last year because some counties required that you recertify for an exemption. Well, DeKalb doesn't require that you recertify. As long as you are in that property as your primary residence and you register your cars in DeKalb County, you're entitled to that particular exemption. But we don't make you come back and do it again or do it every 2 or 3 years, all right? The changes come from exemptions would be if you get older, and of course, I'm thinking that all of us want to get older. Do I have the same show of hands? Okay. And our income may change, all right? Unlike what some people may think, Big Brother is not watching you. We don't know if your income changes, all right? So if something changes with the current exemption that you may have qualified for, you have to come in and give us that new information. Now, we do have ways of finding out whether you're still entitled, but that's a different discussion. But I'm sure there's no one in this room that would have that problem, all right? But if you qualify an exemption for an exemption, you generally can expect to save $400, $500, $600, $700 on your overall tax bill. So I don't know if that's a significant amount of money to you, but I would rather, if you don't need $600, I would like to leave a cup in the back and you can put it, give it to me, all right? But generally, so you have an opportunity when you file for a tax exemption to actually save money. All right. As Mr. Hicks said earlier, 55% somewhere around there of your tax bill, your total tax bill, is a school levy. That levy comes from the school board. Right? Neither Mr. Hicks nor I have any control over what the school board mill rate is going to be. Yes. Or Madam Mayor, or Madam Mayor. All right. So when you look at the composition of your bill, it's coming from the operation of the city, it's coming from the operation of the county, and the operation of the school board as your 3 principal big elements that go into that tax bill. The school being the biggest part of it. Most of you talking about or interested in the school tax exemption because that's the biggest exemption. Well, that is required income, and age and income. There's always going to be that combination there. So what I'm going to do at this point is to let Christy and my chief deputy talk to you about exemptions and how you qualify and what some of the basic ones are. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christy Huell. I'm the Director of Property Tax. We've heard from our Chief Appraisal, Mr. Calvin Hicks, and our Tax Commissioner here for DeKalb, and then our Chief Deputy Tax Commissioner. Tonight, I'll be talking to you about the basic exemptions that we offer. And I know you gave me a rundown on how to run it. So I just click it. I want to make sure I give you all the information that you need. So the magic question that everyone in the room wants to know, what is a homestead exemption? We know that a homestead exemption, it provides a significant savings towards your annual property taxes. We know that you have to own and occupy the home as your legal resident in order to qualify for the exemption. It can't be rental property. It can't be leased property. It has to be where you reside. Also, we have special exemptions that are available for seniors, disabled veterans, and 100% disabled veterans that are 100% service connected. So we'll be talking about some of those exemptions that we offer tonight. How are the homestead exemption savings limits determined? As Tax Commissioner Irvin Johnson stated earlier, the homestead qualification requirements are set by the general and local legislations. We don't set the limits. We don't set the criteria. We don't do any of that. All of the limits are set by the general and local legislation. The Tax Commissioner's Office, we only administer the exemption process. We don't have any say in who gets this exemption or how much this exemption should be for this district. All of that's set by your local and general legislation. Also, as Mr. Calvin Hicks stated, taxpayers may appeal to the Office of the Tax Appraiser's Office if they would like to do that, or if their homestead exemption was denied. Our homestead deadline was April 1st, so we're past that deadline. So people can appeal to the Chief Appraiser's Office to talk about the different requirements. If they didn't turn in everything they need to turn in, or whatever the reason is, you can appeal that. You always have the right to appeal in government. Homestead exemption rules. Of course, as I stated earlier, you must own and occupy the home as your legal resident as of January 1. January 1 is the magic number for property tax. You must be the primary resident, in order to qualify. The property cannot be rental, and we have various ways to look at that. We look at the water, we look at the tag information, we look at various things to see if you are actually residing at the property. Of course, the vehicles must be registered at the residence, so we look at that as well. You cannot have more than one homestead exemption, including another state. So you can't have an exemption in Fulton and then come over to DeKalb and apply. We will kind of look at that to see, where's your primary resident would be. And of course, as Mr. Irvin stated, everything is based on either household income or age. So our special exemptions, not the basic, everyone gets that as long as you own and occupy. But for your special exemptions, it's based on household income, everyone that's living in the home. So if you have a lot of people living in your home, we'll have to look at all of that income to determine to see if you qualify, not just the applicant. So I want everyone to understand that rule, because sometimes we get a lot of questions on that bulletin itself. How to apply for homestead exemption. We have various ways for you to apply for your homestead exemption. Of course, you can go to our website, www.dekalbtax.org. You can apply for your basic. You can now apply for your special exemption. So all the special exemptions I've been speaking on, you can go and apply on our website from the comfort of your home or wherever you may be. Of course, by mail, but we also ask you to attach a tracking mechanism so that you can track the mailing. Of course, we would love to see you come in person, come out. We would love to talk to you and answer all of your questions. And of course, we have a drop box at all of our 3 locations. We have our central location on Memorial Drive. We have our South DeKalb location, and we have our north location, which is on Claremont, and our South DeKalb is in the South DeKalb Mall. We have drop boxes there where you can actually insert your information there. So we have various ways for you to apply for homestead. And the newest way is online, to DeKalbtax.org, going there to apply for your basic and your special exemption. So do take advantage of that option. How to apply for a homestead exemption. Of course, when you go there on our website at www.dekalbtax.org, you will enter in your parcel number as it appears on your notice of assessment or your tax bill. Of course, you would press enter, and then you would kind of go through that to apply for your homestead exemptions. If you have any questions, contact us. We're open Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. We're there to answer your questions. If you'd like to come by and bring all your information, we'll look at it. We'll talk to you. We'll help you understand. So I know it can be a convoluted process if you don't do this every day. We do this every day. So of course it's easy for us, but we're here to help you so that you can understand what exemptions you may qualify for, or any other questions that you may have. Of course, we stated April 1 is the deadline for both the county and the city of Atlanta, the property that's in the part that's in DeKalb, excuse me. April 1st is the deadline. So you have to have your application to us by April 1st. Of course, that deadline has already passed for tax year 2023. So we're accepting applications for 2024 because the deadline has passed for tax year 2023. Also, disabled veterans can apply year-round. That's the benefit for our disabled veterans. You can apply year-round, bring in your the required documentation that we need, stating that you're disabled, and all the information that'll be on there that comes from the Veterans Affairs. And then we'll go in to kind of see if you qualify from there. But of course, the magic number is April 1st. So of course, we're receiving applications now for 2024. Extending homestead deadline. Of course, life happens, of course. So we do give extensions after the April 1st deadline for late transfers when the property, sometimes the GIS department doesn't transfer the ownership in the right timing and it's not showing that you're the current owner. We will make exceptions for that. And we do have various other situations that we may give the exception for, but we do have to have the information in our office by April 1st. And we will give you a letter saying, come back in 2 weeks and we'll kind of go from there. So we do have some, things that we can do to kind of help you because some people haven't filed their taxes yet. There are various reasons as to why we would extend that, but we would give you a letter for that extension. Special exemption required documents. So of course, we were talking about the income requirement. Of course, you have to have your Georgia's driver's license or your state ID card. If you're providing if you're applying for your special exemptions for the school tax exemption, we would need your federal income tax returns, Form 1040, pages 1 and 2. That's all we need for the federal. For the state, we're going to need the Form 500, only pages 2 and 3. And of course, if Social Security is your only source of income, we'll just need the SSA 1099. That's the information that they give you stating how much you'll get every month. We'll total that up, total that up for the year and go ahead and see if you qualify. And of course, if you're applying for the disabled veterans exemption, we'll need proof of that and that'll come from the Veterans Affairs. So these are the required documents that we'll need when applying for your special homestead exemption. Your basic is just your Georgia's driver's license or your state ID. Only. There's no age, no income requirement for basic. For specials, there is an age and there will be documentation that we'll need to see if you qualify for the exemption. Now, Stonecrest city exemptions. Of course, everyone in here I know live in Stonecrest. So these are the requirements for Stonecrest. Of course, for the basic, as I mentioned, no age or income requirement. And with that, for the city exemption, you get a $10,000 off the assessed value plus a 1 mil reduction. That was voted in by your mayor and council here. And that's what's listed in your ordinance and your charter. So that's the information that we utilize and plug in our system to give you your exemptions. Of course, for the senior, for Stoncrest, 65 years of age or 100% disabled with a net income of $15,000 or less. And that'll give you, if you qualify for that, that'll give you $14,000 off your assessed value plus the 1 mil reduction. If you have any questions regarding this, we just want to see if you qualify. We'll make sure that you get everything that you need, but these are the exemptions that were approved by your mayor and council here. So this is what we'll go by. Every city has their own exemptions. Every city has their own qualifications, their own exemptions. Some cities may not have an income requirement. Some may have an age requirement. It just varies. But these are the requirements for Stoncrest. And of course, you see I have the disabled veterans. That's a state exemption, but we're just listing it here. And of course, you have to be 100% service connected in order to qualify. If you look here, it says 109,986. That's how much of the assessed value that you'll get off. That's how much will come off your assessed value if you're a disabled veteran, 100% service connected. That's also where you can see the code section here for Stoncrest, where you can pull that information up so you can kind of see what the requirements are for this city. As I mentioned, everyone has their own homestead exemptions and so forth. But the hierarchy here, so you can understand the hierarchy for the county, the H3 exemption, everyone has their handy dandy homestead exemption sheet. If you look on there, you see the H3. Of course, you have to be 62 or 100% disabled to get that. And if you get the H3 exemption, it eliminates the school taxes because of course that's the largest entity that you'll be paying for in taxes. Of course, if you get the H7, it gives you a better savings on your county and your school taxes. Now, when you reach the age 65 or 100% permanently disabled, The H4, that's the best exemption that you can get. That's the goal, right? That's the goal. So H4 is the best exemption that you can get. It eliminates the school taxes and of course the state taxes. There's no state meal anymore. Then I'll just, kind of go down the line. But if you see here at the H6, just say you don't qualify between the ages of 62 and 69, when you turn 70, they give you a little bit more flexibility, and this will eliminate you from the school taxes and of course the state taxes that doesn't exist anymore, but eliminate you from the school tax. So just say you don't qualify at the age of 62 through 69, you may qualify when you reach the age 70. So do look at your handout that I gave you. It explains everything that you need to know. And of course, this information is on our website. You have the documentation that you need. And of course, for your basic homestead exemption, that's the H1F, there's you will save 1/3 of your taxes. It's approximately 1/3 of your taxes, what we save, to be saved. But of course, there's no age or income requirement. As long as you own and occupy the home, you qualify for the basic, and everything above that is your special exemption. So everyone has that handout. If you don't have the handout, we have more in the back. Disabled veterans. So of course, we were talking about the 100% disabled veterans. Of course, if you come in our office and you give us the information and it states that you're 100% service connected, you will receive the H5 exemption. Just say you've reached the age of 65 and older and you're a disabled veteran, you would get the benefit of the H5 plus you'll get more savings off. So it'll be the H10. So you have the H5 for anyone who is I guess 64 and above. You would get the H5 exemption, and the H10 is for the seniors who are disabled veterans. So there's a lot of exemptions here, and surely you guys will qualify for some of them. So if you have any questions regarding that, of course, our information will be listed at the end. You can email, you can call us, and we'll explain everything to you there. Also, I'm not sure if everyone knows, but our tax bill is very detailed. So outside of your special exemption, your basic homestead exemption, you have your property assessment freeze. And that's something that only, that's something that we have here. And Mr. Calvin was talking about that. That's your assessment freeze, what we call a base year. You have your constitutional savings, that's your homesteads, your different exemptions there. And then you have your e-host credit, which is only exclusive for DeKalb. That's that extra penny on the dollar that you're spending. That's also allocated in there. So if you see your gross tax, minus your freeze, minus your constitutional, minus your e-host equals your net tax. But the governor kind of gave a little goodie this year, good little treat this year. This year, if you have a H1F exemption or any type of exemption, H1F and higher, you will receive $18,000 off of your assessed value, depending on what your mill rate is. It would exclude any CID mill rates. It would exclude any SSDs or any bonds, but any other mill rate that's on there, that HTRG credit will be attached to that. Everyone should have received a pamphlet in your notice of assessment this year. It explains more in detail of what that, what the exemption details. But you'll receive it on your 2023 tax bill. So you'll see all of these savings plus the HTRG. And from what we're getting, this is a one-time, so it'll only be exclusive for tax year 2023. Any questions about that, give us a call. We won't be able to give you, we're finalizing all the mill rates so we can prepare for digest, because we're in digest season right now. So we don't have all the final mill rates. So we can kind of give you an estimate based on the prior year millage rate of what your HTRG credit would be. So you have all of these exemptions plus your new HTRG. So that'll help you out some there. And final note, of course, we stated that the application for both the county and city exemptions must be filed for by the tax commissioner's office. That's exclusively for Stonecrest. Remember, the burden of proof for the application lies on the taxpayer. So it's up to you all to prove that you qualify for this exemption or that exemption, or provide the necessary documents that we're requesting. If we do not receive an application, we cannot apply an exemption. So if you do not apply, we cannot give you the exemption. April 1st was the deadline. So we do kind of hold tight to that. But if you like to appeal, do appeal with the property appraisals department. And remember, homestead exemption is not automatic. If you have any questions, that's what we're there for. We're here to answer your questions. If you have your documentation with you, your assessment notice, you look in the right-hand corner, it'll show you H1F, H4, H4F, H5. That lets you know you have some sort of exemption. If you don't see anything there, I'm not sure, that means, of course, you don't have an exemption. So you want to make sure that you have a homestead exemption so that you can qualify for the additional savings that the governor did put in place. But remember, homestead exemption is not automatic. If you move, you have to reapply for the exemption. I want to make sure I'm clear on that. So we do get a lot of questions that come through, and we want to make sure that we abide by the state law and not break those laws and those rules. So we want to make sure everyone understands that homestead is not automatic, that you have to apply. Yeah. Okay, no question. But I do want to list our ways to contact us. Of course, you can do it via email, proptext@DeKalbCountyGA.org, .gov, proptext@DeKalbCountyGA.gov. Our phone number is 404-298-4000. And of course, if you're paying your current tax bill, you want to pay that by phone and you have a live agent at 770-336-7500. We are on Facebook and Twitter. I do advise everyone, if you're on social media, to join our platforms, because that's where all of our information, all of the upcoming deadlines and so forth will be listed on there. She gives a wealth of knowledge on our social media platforms. So I do ask that everyone take advantage of that. And also for useful information, FAQs and so forth, DeKalbTax.org. Everything that you need to know is on our website. Thank you.
Speaking of DeKalbTax.org, I'm going to exit out of this and ask Mr. IT professional in the back. Sir, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but can we switch to, let me see. Oh, never mind. There it is. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, ladies and gentlemen, Nicole Golden, sorry, Chief Deputy Tax Commissioner, is show you all how to go to our website and find your personal information. I'm hoping this is helpful. Okay. So I'll go home. And then I'm going to scroll down to, actually, the quickest way to do it is to go to make a payment. So even if you're not making a payment, click on make a payment. And then select property tax. And then you come here and you can put in your address. Now, most people don't know their parcel ID. So I'm going to actually put in an address, and I'll type in one that I found on Zillow. It's 7561 Roseberry Way. But if you notice, I'm not going to type in way. I'm just going to put in Roseberry. So don't put in street, don't put in drive, don't put in circle, just put your street. If it's Blackberry Lane, and Blackberry is two different words, put in black and berry, but don't put in lane, okay? And so I'm going to select search. And then I'm going to click on, here it is, Roseberry Way. And all of this, by the way, is public record. So no matter what, if you, to Mr. Hicks' point, Director Hicks' point, if you are comparing your property taxes to your neighbors to see if you should appeal, you can look up your neighbor's property tax information. That's law. So anyway, so we have this information here. I can see right here that this individual has, where it says exemption type, this person has an H1F, which is a basic exemption with a freeze. Okay, so whomever this is, they have a basic, which you heard Ms. Christie say, anybody can get a basic as long as you live in the property. No age or income requirement. You have to live in the property, you have to occupy it, you can't have other exemptions. Now, what is a freeze? You want to have a freeze because that keeps your property value, or at least certain parts of the mill rate, not the mill rate, but your values are frozen. Okay, so if you, let's say you have an H1, but you don't have an F, you don't have a freeze, call, email, you want that freeze. So call and email our office and we'll send you an application for the freeze. Okay, so if you don't have that F, call us. If you have nothing, if you have exemption type and it says none, and you should at least have a basic because you live at that house, call us and you can go ahead or you can go online, whichever you prefer, your comfort level, and apply for your basic. Again, since April 1 has passed, It will not apply until 2024, but you want to check to make sure. But this, if you go to this website, our website, it allows everybody in here to see what you have and where you are right now. It's also listed on your assessment notice that came out in May. That same information on exemption line will tell you where you are. And then throughout the year, if you want to pay, you would just, also, if you want to look at your tax bill, you can see for 2022 all the way to 2015 on this particular property, you can see the taxes owed and what was paid and what is due. You can see that about your own tax bill. You can click here where it says tax bill details, and it will pull up your tax bill for these prior years. So this is information you can get on your property for yourself. Feel free to call us if you have questions, but I always like to look up my own information on my own. And so that's why that's there. You can change the year. You want to apply for an exemption. We take applications for exemptions year round. The difference is after April 1, it goes to the next year, but you can go to, this is on our website. Just scroll down under property tax, apply for exemptions right here. This is what that page looks like. If you're applying for a basic, you just click on that green link there. If you're applying for a special, you apply here. Okay, click on the link and it'll tell you what to do. If you want to know more about exemptions, click on this link right here that says exemptions. And everything that Ms. Christie talked about today is right here. That homestead information sheet that she passed out is right here. All that information is there is on our website. If you still have questions after you've gone to the website, call us. But almost everything we talked about is right here on our website and is there, year round. One other thing the tax commissioner asked me to mention to you all is the tax bill, as you probably already know, comes out every year in mid-August. Okay, so your actual tax bill will come out in mid-August. If you're new to DeKalb, we have the benefit of having 2 installments. So your first bill, at least half of your bill is due by September 30th. I think this year it may be October 2nd because September 30th falls on a weekend. So this year you actually have until October 2nd to pay, but you have to at least pay half. If you want to pay the whole thing up front, feel free, but you have to at least pay half. And then the second half is due November 15th. Okay. And so we collect for the city of Stonecrest and for the county. So you're going to get one bill and that'll include your taxes for both. Did I cover everything? 2 installments. We collect year round. Full payment, partial payment. I think I covered all of that. Okay, I think we're done. Thank you so much for your patience and thank you for everyone in the back. And I'll turn it back over to the mayor.
Sarah. So I know you've heard a lot. So hopefully you took notes and now we're going to do some Q&A. All right. Get down to a little bit of nitty gritty. I want to say that if we have questions, and so guide me here, if we have very specific questions about something that you may have on your property tax statement that may go beyond this conversation, I want you to make sure that you get the contact info for either group so that you can reach back out. We can help follow up and make sure you get your questions answered. Okay. So we're going to try to get to all of your questions tonight as best we can. As long as you're patient with us, we're certainly here for you. We'll be here until we're done. But there may be some things that you may not want to ask right here, or there may be some things you want to follow up on. So we want to make sure that we connect you with the right resource to get those answers. Okay. Make sense? All right. Now we're going to do this classroom style. All right. and I've never been in the classroom, so I'm going to take a little Councilwoman Grimes and see if I can figure out the classroom. So we're going to raise your hands. Okay. I'm only going in order of what my eye catches first, right? So it's not preferential. It's just what my eye catches first, but I promise you we're going to get to everything as best we can. Okay. So the first hand I saw was Ms. Kane in the back. We'll go with Ms. Kane, but I promise you that we're going to get to every hand before we leave. Okay.
Everybody doesn't have to do that. At least one person. But includes everybody's income.
Okay. Come on up here, Glenda. Cause I'm not gonna be able to repeat that. Is that for the applicant? Charlotte, you, I think he mentioned earlier that it's quite challenging to win the appeal. for your property value assessment. Not impossible for sure. But there's quite a bit of resources and checks and balances all the way to the state side that double checks that digest to ensure that the county is not 10% one way or the other above it. So it's possible, surely. But absolutely. Mhm. Thank you, Director Hicks. Mhm. For sure. Thank you, Commissioner. Okay. All right, next hand. Pick one in. I'm gonna try to make it larger. No. Xavier. Yep, this freeze does not affect school, city, or state taxes. Not big enough still. Angela. Do it again. A lot more hands are raised up. I'll take you, Miss Kathy, and then I'll come back over here to you. Okay. Mr. Facts. Cool. Miss Renee, let me get Miss Carol and then I'll come back to you, Miss Renee. Right. You got to come in, Miss Carol. You got to come on in. Miss Renee. Okay, hand. Do it again. Okay. That's helpful. Yes, sir. Now, that's C now. That's question 4, letter C. That what you said? Because we're not into it. We're not in a forum now. We're in a town hall meeting. Thank you, Director Hicks. I appreciate that. Okay. Any more questions? Hold on, Representative Carter, you got. Okay, all right. Come on, Pastor, come on. Okay, you ready? Okay. Change H to get this special. Here, that was in the presentation. Let me go back. All right, Representative Carter, it's your turn. number of years. 4. Love it. Good segue. Yeah, with the an intentional manner. Council and I try to evaluate future land use and our zoning code. It is a gentle balance, and in some areas, a tug of war between development or not, amenities or not, a transient community versus a suburban character. It is a gentle balance with intentional transition that we are trying to achieve every day when we make these kind of decisions. It is a balance between how do we increase the digest property value so that we can have the amenities we've been crying out for so long, but also keep property values at a rate where we can afford it. That's not an easy task, especially for, like how you used it, lay people. You have an educator, someone in transportation, postal worker, government worker, film and entertainment, Councilman Robinson, Councilwoman Sarah Gray, real estate and former investor, talking about elected lay people who are trying to make decisions every day about how to balance our quality of life, the desires we want in our community, but also make it safe and environmentally conscious. It's not something that happens overnight. It's certainly not something that we wake up as experts in. It's something that we partner together with, try to find that balance and bring quality of life to a community that we deserve and have been so long. And we ask you for grace and patience and your understanding of taking time 2 hours out of a Wednesday after a holiday, hang out and talk about property taxes and show your dedication and your engagement. So with that, because I am a politician, I will end there. If you have any more questions, oh, thank you. Let me acknowledge Mr. J.P. Phillips, who walked into the room representing Commissioner Lorraine Cochran Johnson's office of county. Our lovely and known as no other than the Teresa Hardy has also stepped into the room. Civil rights activist, always representing our community. If you have any more questions, further reach out to any of us anytime. We'll be happy to connect to a resource and also get you the answers that you're looking for, okay? Thanks again for hanging out with us. Have a great night. Get home safe.